Hi, I'm going to show you how I painted this bunny in watercolor using a limited amount of colors and having a lot of fun with texture. This is Melinda with Melinda Howard Art. Thank you so much for joining me. I am, as you can see, I'm wetting my paper and I want it to get good and glistening. And I don't know if you can tell, but I am painting on a vertical on my easel and not flat. The colors that I will be using are very limited. I'm mainly using 4 colors, but then I'm adding a few other colors. The ones you see on the left, manganese blue, ultramarine blue, vandyke brown, and raw sienna, I mostly used for this painting, but I also used some alizarin crimson, Indian yellow, Paynes gray, and burnt sienna. What I'm doing here is I'm adding some manganese blue to the watery paper. And I'm just doing it randomly. I don't want it to be even or smooth. This is some vandyke brown that I added, and then I'll be adding some raw sienna as well. And each time I sort of blend it in with my brush. I'm using a 2-inch brush here that I got from Rosemary & Co. You'll see that I'll just keep adding until I have a good blend on there, and anytime I see like a straight edge of color, I'll sort of blend it in with a little bit of water on my brush. And now I'm going to blow dry, but this is very important. Only blow dry it for about 30 seconds. I'm just knocking off that sheen of water. Now that the paper is still damp but not glistening with water, I'm going to get a water bottle and spray it in a few spots. I want some larger spots of blooms and I want some smaller drops. And so I'm going to play with it. I'm going to wipe some off. I'm going to add more color. I'm going to spray it a few times, maybe even dry it and then spray it again. So I'm just going to keep playing with it. There's really no magic formula to this. I just keep playing with it, experimenting, and I recommend that you do that too. Here I've got my brush and I'm almost parallel with the paper and just kind of wiping real lightly, and it gives it kind of a smeared look in a few places. I like that too. So I'm just going to keep playing with it. You don't want it to be too light, your entire background, but you don't want it to be real busy either, to distract from your focus, which is really the bunny. But it will dry lighter, and after you add the bunny, you'll find that the background isn't as intimidating as you thought, or as busy and crazy as you thought it was. So just keep playing, just keep experimenting, and I think as you do a few of these, as I've done a few of them, and I've enjoyed the backgrounds and the texture more and more every time that I do it. Okay, now I am happy with it. I'm going to go ahead and blow dry it with my hair dryer, because next I need to draw the bunny and I need it to be completely dry. Now that the paper is dry, I'm ready to draw this cute bunny. I do want to tell you where I got this great reference photo. I got it from an app called Unsplash for my iPhone. It's a great app. It has free photos that photographers generously give so that you can use them for commercial and non-commercial purposes, including paintings. So I really appreciate it. This photographer's name is Christopher Paul High, and I really appreciate him giving generously and allowing me to be able to paint this bunny. Thanks, Christopher. I think I'm going to completely speed up this part where I'm drawing the bunny. If you would rather see the entire video with me drawing the bunny and explaining it, then I'll be glad to do that for you. Just let me know if you would like that. Just leave a message in the comments below and I'll create that. Now on to the painting. I'm going to be painting this bunny in layers. I'm going also to be using mostly wet and wet techniques, especially for the first layers. I'm mixing here some raw sienna and alizarin crimson because I'm going to start with the ears and the back part, the top back part of his neck, which have a similar color to the ears. So I'm going to first use clean water and I'm just covering the areas that I want to start with. When I'm putting the water on, I want to go a little beyond where I'm going to be painting so that I can have some nice blending toward the right side, especially of his back neck. I'm going to cover completely the ears. Now I'm adding my watered down alizarin crimson and raw sienna mix. I did mix a little bit more. It was a little too watery, and when you already have water on the paper, you don't necessarily have to have super watery paint mixture, but I do want it to be light because I will be applying several layers and I want to build up to the darks. And now I'm going to take just alizarin crimson and drop in where I want it to be a little more pink and where there will be a lot more pink later in areas. But I just want to have some interest and have a little more texture, and I do this by dropping in color in every layer. That will describe a little better what I want. And now I'm doing just the raw sienna in the bottom part, kind of where the neck meets the body. It's a little darker right there, so I just want to drop in a little of that raw sienna. I'm dropping in water and just the head area and being really careful. I know there's some areas that I want to leave a little bit of a lighter tone, so I'm trying to kind of move around that, and of course around the eye. The reason that I'm only putting water on the head at this point is that it will dry. If I try to get the whole body at once, you know, I'll have to go right back to the top and start adding more water. So I'm just going to work a little at a time. So I'm just doing the head at this point. And I'm going to use some vandyke brown and going to put that on, and then I will be dropping in some blues as well. Now I can move on to the rest of the bunny. I'm going to fill all of it with a little bit of water, clean water on my brush, and then I will be using the same colors that I just used on the head. So I'll be using Van Dyke Brown and then adding some blues to it as well. And there are some spots that I will lift out before I continue with the blue. I will just have a wet brush that I've dried off a little bit and lift it off in a couple of areas. Again, I'm not concerned with getting everything smooth. I want a really nice, interesting texture throughout the bunny, and so I will be doing these kind of techniques over every layer that I add. Here I decided to spray the bunny again just to add more texture. I'm not sure how I felt about it after I did it, but this is the first layer, so it really doesn't matter. Really, my goal is to experiment and try things, and this first layer is really the best time to do that. I'm just drying everything right now and going to get ready for my next layer of the bunny. Now that I'm going to work on the bunny's eye, I'm going to zoom in for you so you can see it a little better. I'm mixing up some raw sienna, which you wouldn't think would be in this bunny's eye because all you see is dark. But I want to show how adding just a warm color underneath your dark layer will give the eye some real interesting depth. So first, the bottom part of the eye, I'm adding this warm raw sienna. Now I'm going to use some Paynes gray. I don't ever use black. I think it causes the eye to look flat and dead. So Paynes gray is the darkest color that I'll go unless I'm mixing my own dark color. But I really like Paynes gray a lot. It has a little bit of blue undertone to it, and I really like that. As I'm adding this Paynes gray, I'm keeping in mind that I want to keep the white of the paper for the catchlight. I don't want I don't know, just a generic white spot, like a round area for the catchlight. I want to look at the reference photo and see how it's shaped, because that actually gives more shape to the eye. Every catchlight is going to have a little bit a different shape to it because it depends on what is being reflected into the eye. So I actually covered the raw sienna, but you can see it underneath just a little bit, and that's exactly what I want to give shape and form to the eye. Now I'm going to move on to just filling in his little nose. It's a side view, so it's just basically the shape of a triangle and then some white right beside that triangle. And I'm just going to work on the shape a little bit, and then I'm going to go on to working on my next layer of the entirety of the bunny. So I'll be using the same colors, Van Dyke Brown and a little bit of blue dropped in on top. And then in the ears and the back of his head and shoulders, I'm going to be using the same colors I used before, which is a raw sienna mostly and a little bit of alizarin crimson mixed in, and I'm going to be blending that into the bunny. Now I'm going to take my brush. I've cleaned it off and I've wiped it on a paper towel a little bit, and I'm just going to lift off a little bit of color around his eyes. I'll be doing this in another layer as well, but I just want to make sure I'm not getting too dark because, as you can see on the reference photo, he has quite a lot of a lighter color around his eye. So I'm just going to pull that out there around his eye and in a couple of other places. Here I'm going to try a different brush for lifting off. I found this really inexpensive synthetic brush. It's made by Royal and Langnickel, and I bought it on Amazon. It's not as soft as my watercolor brush I was using, and yet it's not too stiff either where it will, damage the paper. I find this 300-pound Arches lifts really nicely and gives me the ability to add in those light spots where I want to add them. And the reason that I lift instead of leaving the white of the paper is that I just want a soft transition, and I don't want it real white or even the color of my background. I just want it the same color but a little lighter, and I find that this lifting technique on especially animals really works nicely. So that's what I recommend doing if you want to paint something like I've painted here with a lot of texture and softness. Here I'm going to be introducing just some darker darks. I want to be deepening the areas where the fur separates, and just anywhere on the bunny that I see dark areas. And I will strengthen them and maybe go back and strengthen them again. But here I just want to just keep looking at the reference photo and add darks as I can. And I'm using mostly Van Dyke brown and along with some ultramarine blue dropped here and there. I'm also making sure to wet my brush and blend in everything that I'm doing so that all the transitions are nice and blended. Now I'm going to indicate some grass underneath the bunny and kind of in front of him at the very bottom of him. I'm going to use sap green, and I'll drop in some Van Dyke brown and even a little bit, just a very tiny bit of the raw sienna. I don't want to draw individual blades of grass. I just want to add kind of a texture, if you will, of grass underneath them, and I don't want to be real fussy with it or detailed. I just want the viewer to get the idea that he's sitting in grass. Now in this part, I kind of enjoy this. I'm going to be lifting off areas of the bunny to cause a more fuzzy and fluffy kind of feel to the bunny. So along the back side, I'm just lifting out at an angle, the angle that I feel the fur is going, and I'm just lifting off kind of in between where the color of the bunny is and the background. And because there is that background and you're lifting off and kind of moving actually the paint that's on the bunny, it gives it a more fuzzy look, a fuzzy feeling. And it's lifting off so nicely with this brush. It's perfect. And of course, it's better to do it on the 300 pound. It's not going to damage it, but actually I'm not rubbing super hard. I'm just barely touching it, to be honest with you, and then wiping it off periodically really helps with it as well. I'll be doing that, and I'm going to add whiskers with the same technique, and just anywhere that I feel that the bunny needs some fuzziness. Also in the front part of the bunny, under his jaw and right above his front legs, there's some white fur. I don't know if the fur is actually white or if the sun is hitting it there, but I think it's just white fur sticking out, so I'll use this technique to get that as well. I'm working on the whiskers now, and there is a temptation, I think, when you're doing whiskers to want to use a pen or just draw super fine lines. But I find that using this technique where I'm drawing out the paint with this brush by lifting it actually, and doing it as thin, doing the lines as thin as possible works really well. And then after I lift it, then I'm taking just a little bit of vandyke brown and following those same lines that I just created, and not doing a lot. I'm not adding 1,000 of them, just enough to see them. And for the next few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and just let you see the rest of the painting at normal speed. I want you to see how I add a few more details, reshape the eye a little bit, and just deepen some of the darks, especially around the face.
If I had 1,000 tongues, I would sing with everyone. Voices like a mountain song, sing you are my only one. Oh my, oh my, oh my days. Life is wonderful. Life is wonderful. But life can be this good. I would launch 1,000 ships just to be about your lips, tell them all to sail away, just to see you every day. Oh my, oh my, oh my days. Life is wonderful. Life is wonderful. Life is wonderful. Life is wonderful. Never understood, but life can be there.
So here's the final result. I really hope you like it, and I hope you try it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel, and if you like it, hit the like button. And don't forget to comment as well. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day.